Hi, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really pretty kind of old-fashioned looking table runner. Now this is panel fabric. Now you can't get this panel fabric anymore. I decided to go through my stash of Christmas fabric, and I have a lot, and I decided I want to look for something kind of old looking, and this does. The colors aren't as bright as what's popular right now. So you can buy panel fabric even today, and you can find it on many different websites wherever they sell fabric. Quilt fabric shops. You can go to quilt fabric online stores on the internet and buy it, like fabric.com, equilter.com, etsy.com, places like that. And they come in different sizes. My particular squares in the center here are 8.5 inches. So I'm giving you measurements that are for an 8.5 inch square. So if you're getting some other size, you're going to have to adjust the measurements that you have. Now you don't have to use panel fabric. You can take some other fabric that you really love and also cut out 8.5 inch squares and put it in the center. These little squares are called cornerstones, and then it has sashing around it. And then I've put traditional binding on the edges, but mine is just a little step up from traditional binding. It's called flange quilt binding, but you can still use regular quilt binding. All the instructions on what the sizes are to cut your fabric out are listed below. The amount of fabric you need is also listed below your YouTube screen, so just scroll down. I purchased about a yard of my panel fabric, and when I cut my pieces out, each square, it's going to come out to 8.5 inches. So you need to measure the squares you are using to see how big you're going to cut them out. Now I've already cut a lot of my pieces out for this table runner, but I'm going to demonstrate how I went about cutting mine out. So I'm going to cut this piece out up here in the corner. And it's always great if you have a square ruler that you can use. And since I already know I want to cut my square into 8.5 inches, I put little post-it notes, or you can use tape, on the 8.5 inch line right here and over here. So it's easy for me to center that 8.5 inch square area around the block. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little better. And I know that I can get about 3/4 of an inch outside of this red line that surrounds the square. So I can go out into this green area around 3/4 of an inch or so. Yours may not be exactly that. It may be less or more. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut some of it out right now. Now I still have these other two sides over here to kind of cut and make sure that they're straight. So I'm going to place my 8.5 inch lines here and here on the two previously cut edges. So I'm going to lay it on there and take your time squaring these blocks up. And so now I'm going to cut. It looks like all I need to do is just cut this side, but sometimes you may find that you have to cut a little bit off on the other side. There's just a tiny bit there. So go ahead and cut out all the squares that you'll need, and for this table runner you'll need 6. Now remember, all of the cutting instructions are listed below your YouTube screen. So refer to that if you're not sure how many pieces you'll need and the correct measurements. So I've taken my little sashing pieces. Those are the strips that are at the beginning and end of the row and also in between. So you're going to stitch them on all sides of your blocks. Now this is just a small row right here, but remember I'm putting 6 of these squares in my table runner. So then once you do that, then it's time to lay out the other sashing pieces. After you've stitched the sashing strips in between your squares, then you want to press the seams on the back side. You want to relax that seam, press it nice and flat. Then you want to press the seams going away from the sashing strips, so they're going towards your squares. Now you're going to stitch your cornerstones, those are the 2.5-inch squares, onto the sashing strips that go on the outer edge of the table runner. So you'll be stitching a row of these for each side of the table runner, the 2 longest edges. So you will start with a cornerstone and then do sashing, cornerstone, continue on down, and then you'll end with a cornerstone. Now make sure that you have pressed your seams on your 2 outside edge strips. You've pressed the seams going towards the 2.5-inch squares. Now, once you've done that, you've got it all pressed real nice, then you're going to take this and bring it front side together with your center section. Always line up the seams first. So you want to make sure that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction than the seam on top. And always always pin all of your seams first. Then once you've got the seams pinned, then you could put a pin here along the center of the sashing. Then you would go ahead and stitch a 1/4 inch seam all along that edge. After stitching this section down, then press the seam on the back to flatten that seam out. Then unfold and press on top. And I like to press my seams going away from the center blocks, and do that on both sides. Now this is just a smaller version of the table runner that I finished. Mine is actually, instead of 3 blocks like this is, it's actually 6. But it gives you an idea of how to put it all together. The next step that you want to do is cut your fabric for the back. And on the cutting instructions below your YouTube screen, it'll tell you how wide to cut your strips of fabric. And then you're going to stitch the 2 ends together about a 1/2 inch seam. And the reason why you have to cut 2 strips is because your fabric is only 42 inches wide, and you're going to need way over 60 inches for the table runner. So go ahead and stitch those 2 pieces together. In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to explain how to layer your fabrics. So after you have your fabric cut out for the back, you also want to get your cotton batting cut. Now your fabric for the back and the cotton batting are cut about 1 inch longer and wider than the actual table runner piece on top. And that's because you want that extra fabric because you're going to do quilting stitches. Now this is just a sample setup of layering your fabric. Take your fabric for the back and you're going to place the pretty side, it's also called front side or right side, place it down against your table. Then place your cotton batting and then your fabric that's on the top for your table runner, and make sure all layers are smoothed out, that you don't have any wrinkles or little folds in it. Now because this is just a table runner, I recommend you just need to use some straight pins to hold all of the layers together. And you need to do that so when you go to do your quilting stitches, your fabric doesn't shift. Otherwise, it's going to stretch and shift if you don't do that. You can use safety pins if you like. Now I'm going to give you samples of some stitching patterns. Now this is just a sample of straight stitches. So you could do straight stitches 2 to 3 inches apart. So you could go across one way and then turn your fabric and go across the other way. This is just going side to side and top to bottom. You can also, if you're a little more experienced, go on a diagonal. So you would just start at one end and go across, and then turn your fabric and then go across the other way. Most computerized sewing machines have something called a serpentine stitch, and it's a wavy line. If you're going to use the serpentine stitch, do a test stitch so that you might have to lengthen the stitch in order to get it to look like this, because all manufacturers set their serpentine stitch at a different stitch length. So always test stitch everything. So you can again do it up and down and side to side, just straight lines, or you can go from corner to corner. This is my finished table runner. I wanted to show you one more option for doing quilting stitches, and that is called stitch in the ditch. And what you're going to do is go into each of these seams and stitch. And I would lengthen your stitch to at least 3.0. So you're going to go across from one end to the other, stitching in the ditch, and then turn and then go down the other 2 stitches. So those are your options for quilting stitches. This is a walking presser foot, and I highly recommend whenever you do quilting stitches that you use this. This will prevent you from getting little tucks in your fabric and the fabric stretching. So it helps to control multiple layers of fabric. If you do not have one of these, you can go to sewing websites that sell different parts. There's one called Sewing Machines Parts Online. You can also go to Amazon. Just make sure you get one that fits your machine. So enter your machine name and model number and search for one. They're pretty affordable. They're not all that expensive. After your quilting stitches are all done, then you want to go to all 4 edges and trim the fabric that's on the back and the cotton batting, even with your top piece. So you would just line, I like using a long ruler, so line your ruler up on that edge of the fabric that's on the top of the table runner, and with a rotary cutter, cut the edge off. And so you would go around to all 4 edges. The last step is to put on your quilt binding. And I'm going to refer you to several other tutorials that I have. You can put on regular quilt binding. It has the fewest steps to it, and so there will be a link down below for quilt binding. Then there's another one like I have on here. This is called flange quilt binding, and it has this extra little piece of fabric on it. So here's some of it that's stitched together. So you see this little piece on the edge. What it is that you've got 2 different colors stitched together, and then you fold it, and when you fold it, you've got this little piece on. And it goes on just like your regular quilt binding. So I have all of the information that you need in another link down below called flange quilt binding. It'll tell you the exact measurements of your strips and how to stitch it on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you learned something new. When you make table runners, it's like this. It's an introduction to how to make a quilt, because the construction of the blocks are the same if you're making a quilt, a table runner, placemat, pot holder. It's all the same steps. It's just that you have more blocks put together. If you're interested in other table runners or beginners quilting projects, then check below your YouTube screen. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends and make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl. This is Manny. See you next time.